It's good to see all of you online today. I'm Sharon Love with the OUUC Tech team. I use she, her pronouns. Welcome to all who are joining us on whatever platform you're using. This Zoom service is being recorded and it's streaming live to YouTube. We're leading worship from several locations today, so you will see the service move back and forth between us. Most of our sharing happens in the Zoom chat box, which is not posted or shared publicly. We use the chat feature for greetings, song lyrics, affirmations, and applause, and items shared from the heart. It's not a good format for critique or conversation, especially back and forth debate. Please save your comments for the coffee chat or feel free to contact Reverend Mary at minister@ouuc.org. We will be turning the chat on and off today during the service. We've also enabled the automated closed captioning for those of you who would like to use it. It's easy enough to alter your settings. Find the CC button at the bottom of your screen and click it to see options. You can hide subtitles or click subtitle settings to change the text size. This feature is imperfect, especially when translating song lyrics. Feel free to hide subtitles during hymns if they're distracting. We can expect some tech glitches as we continue to do all we can to optimize our connections. If you experience any technical issues during the service, you can reach out to Joe Celine or another member of the tech team for assistance while the chat is on. We appreciate the grace as we all remember it's about connection, not perfection. Lastly, I hope you'll find a candle or a chalice. In a moment, we can light them together. Thank you for your grace and adaptability as we all learn together.
Let's sing together hymn number 1018, Come and Go With Me. Just remind you that you can find the lyrics in the chat. And we have some choir members singing with us this morning, so I'll let you watch them and not me as we sing.
Good morning. Welcome to the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation online worship service. The OUUC community comes together in the mutual promises and possibilities of our covenant. We commit to live out our mission to be a liberal religious community that opens minds, fills hearts, and transforms lives. We are so glad you are here today. My name is Curtis Tanner, and I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a member of the worship arts team. Leading worship with me today is our minister, the Reverend Mary Gear, Sarah Lewis, our Director of Community and Faith Development, and Troy Fisher, our Music Director. Our speakers today will be 8 congregants offering reflections on Unitarian Universalist principles. Their names are in the order of service. We give thanks for the tech team and OUUC media specialist Jocelyn for providing technical support today. And thank you, Darlene Sarkala, our administrator, for keeping us informed and connected. Also, thanks to the choir members in the Commons and the breakout room hosts. We are so grateful for the many hands that help make worship happen this morning. We welcome each of you to this celebration of love and wonder and to this congregation. After the service, we invite you to stay online for a virtual coffee chat. This is a chance to gather with a small group to say hello and check in. Each breakout room will be hosted by someone to help make sure everyone knows each other and has a chance to share. Reverend Mary will offer reflection questions to get the conversation started. We do hope you'll stay. I want to draw your attention to the order of service, which includes our announcements available on the website. Plan to stay online after the coffee chat today for After Church with Melanie Ransom. Her guest today is OUUC Administrator Darlene Sarkala, who has served this congregation for 30 years this month. Woo! Just return to the main room after the breakout rooms end, and remember to come by OUUC next Sunday at 3 p.m. for a drive-through to honor Darlene and Troy for their many years of service. The auction is coming, and the dogs are excited. Back to Our Future, our fabulous online auction is less than a week away. Bidding begins 8 a.m. sharp this Saturday, April 17th. We'll have an entire week to shop the online trove of intriguing items, but today is the deadline for submitting your auction item or event to the catalog. Simply find the Make a Donation tab on the auction website. I'll be doing that myself later today. Please don't delay. Contributions to OUUC's bright future by donating your auction item by the end of the day. Today we'll be hearing about the 8th principle that has been proposed to add to the current 7 Unitarian Universalist principles. If you're interested in learning more about the 8th principle, plan to attend an 8th principle organizing meeting next Saturday, April 17th at 1:30 p.m. with Reverend Mary and Sarah Lewis. Finally, plan to join the OUUC board for a question and answer session after coffee next Sunday. This will be a time to prepare for the May 1st congregational meeting. You can learn about the newly proposed vision, mission, and ends for OUUC on the website link in the chat and bring your questions next Sunday. There are many opportunities to stay connected to our community because social distancing doesn't mean social isolation. Please check the website regularly. If you have questions or need help, please check in with a staff member. Now, let us open our hearts and our minds as we prepare for worship. Welcome, everyone. It is good to be together. This morning and every Sunday morning, we join Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world in lighting a chalice, the symbol of our faith tradition. Please join me as we light our chalices together with these words by Maureen Killeran. Holy are the places of becoming, the places of clear vision, where life and world are intertwined, and we can see forever in the moment and give thanks. Holy are the places of becoming.
Good morning. Our opening words this morning are offered by Tess Baumberger. This is a responsive reading, and so I'll read, and then we'll speak together, speak wherever you are. And the words are, we travel this road together. Let's try that together right now. We travel this road together. From the busyness of every day, we gather once a week to remember who we are and to dream of who we might become. We travel this road together. As companions on this journey, we share the milestones we meet along the way. Individual moments of joy and sorrow become shared moments of comfort and celebration. We travel this road together. We share this journey across differences of belief and opinion because we value diversity and because we care for one another. We travel this road together. Today, as we take the next steps, let us notice our fellow travelers, the burdens that they carry, the songs that inspire their hearts. We travel this road together. As we gather in beloved community, let us open the holy havens of our hearts. Let us share the sacred places of our souls, for we are pilgrims who share a common path. We travel this road together. Come, let us worship together.
Let's sing together hymn number 1064, Blue Boat Home.
Do you remember your first day of school? Going to a new place and starting something new can be exciting, and sometimes it's also a little scary. You probably had a lot of questions. Where do I sit? What time do we eat? Where is the bathroom? Am I allowed to climb the trees? And of course, when can we go outside to play? At school, the teacher shows us where things are and explains how things work. They tell us the rules. And once we know what we are expected to do and what we are allowed to do, it's not so scary anymore. Sometimes, though, there is no teacher. On the playground, for instance, it's just kids. Sometimes we make up our own game and we decide how to be played. Sometimes we make the rules. On the jungle gym, we can decide that the red bars are fire and that they can't be touched when you climb. When we play tag, we can decide that the person who is it has to count to 10 before they start chasing everybody else. It can be a lot of fun to make up the rules to your very own game. That is, if the other kids agree. But if you think the red bars on the jungle gym are fire, but another kid says that the red bars are fine and you can touch them, then how do you play together? There are a lot of different ways to play a game. And if you don't want to play all by yourself, and you can't play tag by yourself, then everybody has to agree on what the rules are while they are playing. Maybe you can keep all the rules, or maybe you can change some. Somehow, some way, after discussing and changing and arguing and compromising, everybody agrees on what the rules should be. Maybe you don't like the other kids' rules all that much, and maybe somebody doesn't like your rules all that much, but you both agree to them. And finally, with those promises and those rules and no cheating, you can play the game. This is like covenanting with each other. A covenant is a promise to each other about what we're going to do and how we're going to behave. We need to have a covenant to have fun playing the game. And covenants are not only for the playground. They can be made by people and students and teachers in schools and families, and they are made in religions too. Our Unitarian Universalist religion has a covenant. Our UU covenant was made about 60 years ago when your grandparents were young. Back then, there weren't any Unitarian Universalists. There were Unitarians and there were Universalists. Two different religions with different names, different buildings, different songs, and different rules. The Unitarians and the Universalists have been talking to each other for a very long time. Even though they had different rules for how they did things, they realized that they agreed on many important ideas, many principles of life. And just like the kids on the playground, even though they had different rules, they wanted to play the same game. In 1960, they decided to play together. They knew they had to figure out new rules that all the Unitarians and the Universalists would agree to follow. And it took them almost a year. After discussing and changing and arguing and compromising for months and months, the Unitarians and the Universalists from hundreds of different congregations agreed on 6 principles, 6 rules that they all could agree to follow. It's true that one person might not have liked another person's ideas for rules all that much. And maybe that person didn't like the first person's rules all that much. But they agreed to follow them anyway, because they knew they both had got a lot of the rules they wanted, and they wanted to play together. They compromised, and they covenanted, and they decided to play the same game. And then, 25 years later, in 1985, they added one more principle to make it 7. You may have heard of the 7 principles. Here's the rules that the Unitarian Universalists agreed to follow. 1, each person is important. 2, be kind in all you do. 3, we're free to learn together. 4, we search for what is true. 5, all people need a voice. 6, build a fair and peaceful world. And 7, we care for Earth's lifeboat. When we promise to each other to follow the rules that we make, we are covenanting with each other. Just like the kids on the playground playing tag, and just like those Unitarians and Universalists 60 years ago. Here ends our story.
We came together in community this morning, bringing all that is in our lives. In this space now, we draw on the strength of our community to listen deeply and hold all that we bring here with us today. If you would like to send in something to be shared, please look for the link on the online worship page on the OUUC website, or simply send me an email and we'll bring it into the service next week. In this space, we share from our hearts what brings us joy and sorrow, what brings us worry and delight, what makes us afraid and what makes us dance. Let's open our hearts to the complexity of life, our own and others. You will hear a drumbeat as we share today. It brings into our awareness that our individual hearts beat, and together we create the heartbeat of our community. So right now, I invite us to take a deep breath together, in and out. And may we open our hearts to receive the complexity of all that is in our lives and community today. Cindy Bowens asks for our prayers and good wishes as she recovers from several hospitalizations this week. Cindy also recently learned of the death of her mother and is taking in that news as well. Cindy, may you know that you are surrounded in the love of this community as you recover your health and as you and your family mourn. There is much happening in the larger world right now. From hate crimes against Asian Americans, to voter suppression laws, to efforts to legalize the oppression of our trans siblings. In the midst of it all, may we hold fast to our values and principles that affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all people and our interconnection to each other. I invite you now to share from your heart by entering in the chat on your screen. This is a time to share all that you wish, joys and sorrows and whatever else is shared from your heart. And as we take in what is posted, let us hear the heartbeat of our community and reach out our hearts in love and care to all those who share. I place a stone in the water for all that has been shared from the heart, a stone holding the complexity of our lives, held in the water of community. And one more stone in the water for all that we hold in our hearts and that remains unspoken. I invite you now into a time of reflection, prayer, and meditation. Infinite web of life, spirit of love, great mystery from which we come and to which we return. On this spring day, may we relish the sunlight, the new green growth, and the promise of new life. May we open our hearts to the complexity of love and life, for the relationships that challenge us and those that teach us. May we offer thanks for this life, for the love that we share, and for moments of joy. On this spring day, may we find moments of peace and hope and a knowing that we are held in love. May this be so. Blessed be, and amen. Let's hold a moment of silence together.
Let's sing together hymn number 18, What Wondrous Love.
What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul. What wondrous love is this, O my soul. What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain love and to all friends I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrow mend. With thanks unto the end, I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end, I will sing.
Our prayers and meditations deepen our gratitude for what we know as sacred in our lives and in this world. Each Sunday, we express our gratitude by joining together in service to our community and to something greater than ourselves. The offering collected here does two things. It supports the ongoing work of OUUC, which is also supported by your regular pledges. This offering also supports an organization that serves our community in harmony with our Unitarian Universalist values. This month, our Share the Plate recipient is Grub, Garden Raised Bounty. Grub is a nonprofit organization working at the intersection of food, education, and health systems to grow healthy food, people, and communities. Please note that you can participate in the offering by making a donation online through the church website or by texting the number that will appear on your screen in just a moment. You can also mail a check to OUUC. Our community partners continue to need our financial support. May the offering now be generously given as it is gratefully received. Thank you for your generosity. One of the unique things about Unitarian Universalism is that it does not have a credo that tells us what we must believe. Instead, we are held together by covenant and by shared values. Our values are reflected with love in our Unitarian Universalist principles. For me personally, I find truth and meaning in those words when I stop to consider them carefully. Those words have been artfully chosen by an inclusive and deliberative process over the past 60 years. And because ours is a living tradition, the principles grow and change just like we do. The words of the principles have power and meaning, When people of faith come together in covenant with shared values, there is power of the possible. The worship arts team reached out to congregants to tap into that possibility. We asked 8 folks to help us imagine what might be possible in the world if our Unitarian Universalist principles were realized. What if those words came into being and part of our everyday reality? As you will see in the upcoming videos, people responded to speak with imagination from the heart and in loving kindness. Join us now as we imagine together a world transformed by the power of collective faith in our Unitarian Universalist principles.
What if it happened all at once? With the wave of a magic wand, everyone would believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, our first principle. When I imagine that, I feel a part of our everyday armor melt away. It's the armor we don't even realize we're wearing, the protection that has grown around our hearts and our spirits, just in case we get bullied in school, or we lose our job or our home, or we want to tell our family about the person we love. I can imagine a collective sigh that erases those thoughts that tell us we are not enough or we didn't do enough. Because if we hold others as inherently worthy, we must hold ourselves worthy too. I imagine a level of stress would dissolve inside each of us when we aren't afraid to be ourselves in any situation, because everyone we meet would greet us assuming that we are inherently worthy of dignity and respect, just because we are here. We wouldn't be afraid of our differences. We would feel safe to be vulnerable with our feelings. People wouldn't even think of spreading gossip, abusing their partner, routing dangerous drinking water to the people in Flint, Michigan, or firing a gun into a crowd of people. That first principle magic wand would create a world of true equality, supported by our actions, reflected in our laws, our media, our books and movies. It would be the water we swim in. But of course, it won't happen all at once like that. It's a practice. It's pretty easy for me to believe that the people I love are inherently worthy, and so are people like Mr. Rogers and Dolly Parton. Good people doing good things for the world. But this first principle doesn't play favorites. It doesn't say we believe in your inherent worth and dignity if you look, act, believe, or live in a certain way. It doesn't separate people into groups that are just a little less worthy or a little more deserving of respect. It says we believe in everyone's inherent worth and dignity. No exceptions. It applies to the driver who's tailgating you, to the senator who supports voter suppression, to the president of Brazil. No exceptions. That's the practice. That's where we start.
Value justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Leader and champion Brian Stevenson has said,
Our justice and dignity. Senator, start.
in the use. Hello, my name is Kelly Thompson, and today I would like to talk to you about the UU second principle, My understanding of the UU's second principle is that we value justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Many wise folks have turned to this principle when faced with moral dilemmas. The civil rights leader and champion Brian Stevenson has said, "The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice." It seems to me that justice is what allows us to learn from our mistakes and to trust others. Compassion is the connection that allows us to touch the humanity in those with whom we most violently disagree. And equity is the right that we grant each other to develop and to learn, and points to the first principle that recognizes the inherent worth and dignity in us all. Within the UU congregation, there are wonderful examples of folks who we may want to join in our evolution to a better world. Justice warriors who work for more equitable systems, such as justice without jails. Tireless advocates for equity in our community and in gender equality throughout the world. Compassionate folks who help us weather our tragedies and mend our flaws. We need all of them. We need all of us to work together on this. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Joe Joy, and I use he, him pronouns. Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. The third principle speaks directly to engagement within the world of the OUUC community and its spiritual purpose. The acceptance of one another reminds us of our affirmation to the first two UU principles, which direct us how diversity in beliefs and spiritual growth should be approached by members of the congregation. As a community of searchers, we should be eager to deepen our lives and grow with meaningful spiritual work. OUUC is here to create a vibrant community by helping each other grow through sharing our individual spiritual journeys. Imagine our world at OUUC if we knew and understood each other in ways so that we were entirely comfortable sharing our spiritual journeys, being heard and hearing each other to assist in spiritual growth. We'd be a community of listeners with open minds and hearts, and we'd be active searchers, accepting each other in deeper ways and in reflecting on our own progress on our own path. Imagine our world at OUUC if each of us felt confident enough in our own path to discuss differences in spiritual approaches beyond our usual comfort zone. Whether humanist, atheist, Christian, pagan, Buddhist, or any other path, we could challenge each other and ask questions without threatening or feeling threatened, but in the spirit of mutual respect and in an attitude of really listening with the aim of looking for ideas, concepts, and insights that we have in common. We might even want to integrate some of them into our own spiritual foundation afterwards. It would be a part of the OUUC culture to take the risk of these deeper conversations made readily available after services or in classes, retreats, or during informal conversations. Imagine how much our relationships would deepen us as individuals and as a community. Our spiritual growth would be greater than the sum of individuals and enhance all of our endeavors as a vibrant community. And we'd be ready to take what we've learned out into the larger community, out into the world.
Hi, I'm Annie Allen. My pronouns are they, them. I was asked to speak about the fourth principle of Unitarian Universalism, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I was asked to speak about what it would look like if we all took this to heart and lived this way, and what it would look like in the future if we all did this. When I initially began working on this project, I actually got the words wrong. I thought it was a free and independent search for truth and meaning, but the word is actually responsible, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I would suggest that the reality is that none of us are free until all of us are free. Until then, one person's freedom is another person's disadvantage. And that is not freedom. What would it be free? What would it be like if we could freely and responsibly search for truth and meaning? I think there would be a balance between individualism and collectivism. I think there would be a healthy suspicion of indoctrination, but also a courage and a bravery to listen to others and to believe others' stories and to search for truth, be in awe of nature, the universe, maybe space, outer space at that time. And with that, I think comes not a small amount of humility. As an activist and organizer, humility is very important to me. As I learn more and more about how to be in right relationship with my loved ones and the larger community and society that I live within, I understand that listening is very important. I don't believe that one person has the answer. I think as we go forward, truth and meaning will change according to how our society and communities change. And if we are responsible, that means that our search for truth and meaning is non-harmful. I also want to acknowledge that I am making this video on the land of the Sichas people of Squaxin Island. I thank them for their stewardship of this land. And I want to acknowledge that colonization is an ongoing process. And thank the people who have taken care of this land that I am the guest on. Thanks.
I'm Chuck Ricketts, and my pronouns are he, him. I'm here to reflect on the fifth principle of Unitarian Universalism: the right of conscience and use of democracy within our congregation and in society at large. Just think what would happen if all of us all over the world developed conscience in a democratic manner. There would be no more hunger, no more poverty, no more hate, and no more wars. That dream has to begin with each of us, recognizing that all of us are created equal. Developing my conscience began at a very early age when my father disciplined me for not sharing my tricycle with the little girl next door. I was just over 2 years old. My father was the most honest man I have ever met. He taught me that I should treat people the way that I would like to be treated myself. Another example of what helped me to develop a conscience was when I was 11. My father was doing some repairs on the roof, and he had to go to the hardware store to get something. I was not to climb up on the roof, he said. But being an adventurous 11-year-old, I disobeyed and climbed up. My father, returning home, saw that I was on the roof. I saw him approaching, and I quickly climbed down, not realizing that he had seen me. He asked me if I had climbed on the roof, and I told him no. Once again, I was disciplined. My father told me that I was not punished for climbing on the roof, but for lying about it. He hated lying, and he told me I must always be truthful. But the greatest influence, however, for my developing conscience was the example that he set for me. He treated everyone with respect and regarded all people as equals. The political situation in our nation for the last 4 years has been a terrible strain on my ability to apply conscience in a democratic manner. I almost lost a very close friend when I failed to consider his right to beliefs which were different than mine. Only my apology has erased some of that, and so we have a partly friendship. I am, and I remain, an active liberal advocate. My signature block on my emails always has a comment. For example, my signature block right now says, "Those who do not condemn the big lie are complicit with any violence that occurs as a result."
I'm Gary Worthington, a member of OUUC for over 25 years. I use he, him pronouns. I've been asked to speak about the sixth principle, imagining a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. I'll be speaking from a personal perspective. Regarding that world community, I often lead adult education classes, and sometimes I use a guided meditation in which people visualize the Earth as seen from space. In that view of our home planet, it's all one beautiful sphere with no discernible political boundaries. My wife Sandra and I have been fortunate to travel extensively in many areas of the world, and we often stay with hosts of the Servos network in their homes who warmly welcome us and provide insights into their ways of life. Rather than a goal of a world community implying something homogeneous, we value the many varied cultures around the planet. The European Union and the UN, despite their flaws, are examples that help me visualize models for that world community. In the past century, in addition to the 2 world wars, the Korean conflict, and the long, terrible, costly, divisive war in Vietnam. Now America is closely allied with Germany and Japan, and relations with Vietnam are mostly friendly. So divisions can be overcome with effort, time, and goodwill. Given the current state of the world, it can often be difficult envisioning the 6 principles, goals of peace, liberty, and justice for all. I personally like to think of some of the science fiction I've read in which humanity has outgrown wars, such as the novels of Jack McDevitt. When I'm immersed in these stories, the environments seem real, and it even seems doable to work toward those goals. We all want to improve the world and leave it better for our having lived. Sandra and I have partnered for many years with an organization in the desert of India, helping to build and operate primary schools for children who wouldn't otherwise have a chance for education. I've also written historical novels covering the breadth of India's history as an effort to interpret the religions, arts, and cultures to Westerners. And we contribute to the International Rescue Committee, which helps all aspects of the refugee crisis around the world. The actions all of us take do have effects that ripple outward. Now, thank you for all that you do toward creating the 6 principles world community of peace, liberty, and justice for all.
April 11th, 2051. Dear Mandy, thank you for inviting me on your class field trip next week. I'm so looking forward to seeing the new art installation at the park honoring Martina Gonzalez. Can you believe Martina, the winner of the 2050 Eco-Interdependence Nobel Prize, is from our hometown? What a difference her research into multi-use habitat preservation has made for so many animals. Not many years before you were born, people just didn't take preserving natural habitat seriously. Thank goodness that changed, and people finally came to their senses. The farm we visited to choose pumpkins last Halloween was a great example of that change in action. Wasn't it amazing to see so many different things all growing intermingled? Not like the monoculture farms dependent on toxic chemicals that killed the life in the soil, or the inhumane meat factory farms of my younger days. The eco-impact laws changed that, requiring the impact of any activity, from farming to building homes to manufacturing sneakers, be assessed for its impact on habitat and life, and that any negative impact be zeroed out for the project to move forward. It was so inspiring when progressive companies joined forces with the environmental movement and led the charge to make businesses directly financially responsible for the full life cycle impacts of their products. Of course, governments also provided incentives to help transition to the new approach. With people increasingly priding themselves on how small their eco-footprint was, rather than how many pairs of shoes they had in their closet, jobs were lost. Governments reached out, though, to help people retrain and find jobs in the new economy, doing everything from servicing wind turbines to restoring natural areas. Farmers were helped as well. The family who owned the pumpkin farm received financial incentives and technical support to transition their farm to be the thriving, sustainable place it is today. Of course, the eco-impact laws themselves evolved out of our adoption of the Earth Rights Manifesto. The country of Bangladesh led the way for that. In 2019, Bangladesh granted all of its rivers the same legal rights as humans. They recognized how essential rivers are and other natural areas to the interdependence of life on Earth, connecting mountains and ocean, rivers that provide a water highway for fish and circulate essential minerals. The Bangladeshis knew that failing to protect rivers would be catastrophic for future generations. Your grandfather and I sure celebrated the day the Earth Rights Manifesto passed, granting legal rights to U.S. rivers and other key natural areas. So much has changed over my lifetime. I've been fortunate to get to witness the shift from a culture of human dominance and overconsumption to one of balance and respect for all living things. Your class field trip will highlight that shift. Gone are the statues of conquerors, thank goodness. Now, our parks and schools and economic system celebrate life in its many different forms and the forward-looking people who helped us get here. I'll see you at the park. Love, Grandma.
My name is Tiffany. My pronouns are she, her, and they, them. I am honored to have been asked to reflect on a future where OUUC is fully living into the proposed 8th principle of Unitarian Universalism. For many of us, the 8th principle is a new concept. It states, we covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. Before I start, I invite you into a deeper awareness of your body. Perhaps place one hand on your heart and one on your belly for one slow breath. It is from this place of grounding that I share today from my home that sits on land once inhabited by the Nisqually, Coast Salish, Cowlitz, and Squaxin peoples. In addition, I bring my ancestral knowing from my own Pueblo and Apache roots in New Mexico. Thanks to DNA analysis, I can now reach back in time to feel connections to ancestors from 4 continents: Europe, North America, South America, and Africa. My identity is informed by this tapestry of family, migration, colonization, and survival. I speak not only for myself, but for the land, my ancestors, and future generations. I see the 8th principle as the missing foundation for the other 7. Without it, the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism can only ever be aspirational. The 8th principle and the associated work required to fully live into it are the explicit, necessary actions that could make all our principles come to life in tangible, salient ways. To prepare for sharing today, I took a deep dive into interviews and panel discussions led by UUs who hold BIPOC identities, Black, Indigenous, and persons of color. From youth to elders, from clergy to newcomers, they lovingly and bravely shared their experiences within their congregations and the denomination at large. I'm sure it will come as little surprise that our largely Caucasian UU communities have harmed our BIPOC siblings in many ways, large and small. They spoke of being welcome, but not fully seen and included. They spoke of being called to UU theology, but have to leave parts of themselves at the door. They spoke of having to go outside of their congregations for spiritual nourishment in BIPOC spaces. I could relate to some of the sentiments as I examine how I personally show up at OUUC. So the exercise is stated: to imagine a world where the 8th principle is alive at OUUC and beyond, to journey towards spiritual wholeness, to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community, to accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions, To this, I say yes, please. I am so in. Making way for this work can be a truly healing transformation for individuals, families, for our ancestors, for those inside our walls and those in the greater community. We at OUUC can become a learning lab, part of a great wave of racial reckoning and accountability that can ripple forth until one day it becomes the dominant paradigm. Walking this path of daily practice, daily faith in action, will require inner work and accountability. Some of us are so ready for this work. Some of us are open but undecided. Some of us are just not there yet. That is okay. Isn't that what congregational life is? Living in community, becoming greater than the sum of our parts, inviting spirit and mystery and inspiration from all around us. In closing, I again invite you into a deeper awareness of your body, placing one hand on your heart and one on your belly, and breathe with me. Tune in to the feelings that you find there. It is with a deep grounding that I thank you for visioning with me today and for looking together toward our shared future.
Let's sing together hymn number 145, As Tranquil Streams. This hymn was originally sung at the assembly where the Unitarian Universalist Association was first begun.
As tranquil streams that we can merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and mind unite to build a church that shall be free, free from the bonds that bind the mind to narrow thoughts and lifeless greed, free from a social code that fails to serve the cause of human need, of freedom that reveres the past, but trusts a dawning future more, and bids the soul in search of truth adventure boldly and explore. Prophetic church, the future waits, your liberating ministry, go forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that makes us free.
Please join me as we extinguish our chalices with these words by the Reverend Leslie Ahuva Fales. All that we have been separately and all that we will become together is stretched out before and behind us like stars scattered across a canvas of sky. We stand at the precipice, arms locked together like tandem skydivers, working up the courage to jump. May we find the courage.
Let's sing together our unison benediction. How bountiful the blessings that surround